It's the Revved Up 906 podcast, a Detroit Pistons podcast to be exact. And I'm Hudson.
And I'm Ryan.
And before we get into episode number 35 of season 3, y'all know the deal. I got to talk to you about a few quick things. First off, if you are new to the channel, make sure to like and subscribe. And if you haven't yet, click the link in the description below, our link to our Instagram. Make sure to go follow us on Instagram for clips, debate topics, hot takes, stuff like that. We would love for you guys to go follow us on Instagram. Also, we are very closely approaching our third Detroit visit to watch the Pistons go up against the Los Angeles Lakers and the Golden State Warriors. We'll also be going to a Red Wings game versus the Boston Bruins. The reason I bring that up is because on our yearly trip, a lot of content comes out on YouTube, Instagram, and stuff like that. We record a podcast from Detroit. We put up lots of reels, pregame things. We put also up vlogs every year, so be ready for the vlogs. So if you haven't yet, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell on our YouTube profile. That bell is the post notifications button, so you guys can be in the know when we are uploading each and every video. So we would greatly appreciate that if you made a push of subscribing and liking and all those things for our Detroit trip coming up very, very soon. A lot of fun content that I'm really looking forward to. Let's get into episode number 35 of season 3. We got a good one for you guys today because there's a lot to talk about surrounding the Pistons right now. Everything from Cade winning Eastern Conference February Player of the Month to our losing streak and kind of the ins and outs of what is going on there. And then we're also going to talk about solutions to those losing streaks and why some of these mistakes are happening throughout a 42-minute game. And then also we're going to talk about the injuries surrounding the Detroit Pistons right now because they haven't necessarily got the injury bug per se, but there are some key players that are sitting out and there's no timetable for when they will return. So we're going to get into it. So let's get into it. We're going to start off with talking about Cade winning Eastern Conference Player of the Month for February. And the reason I bring this up, Ryan, is because whenever a Piston wins an award, it's always great to highlight that. But he's also kind of skid a little bit per se in these last 3 games and the losing streak the Pistons have had. So it's just going to be good to talk about a few little positive things surrounding Cade and what the month of March may have in store for the Pistons. So during the month of February, he had 23 points per game, 4 rebounds, 11 assists, nearly a steal per game, shooting 40% from the field and 43% from 3. So every 7 attempts, he makes 3 shots, for example. Ryan, obviously, Cade has had pretty historic season as far as for a Pistons player per se. Talking the ins and outs of his game and what the month of February brought to him, what are some of your thoughts?
Well, I personally am in the mindset that he probably should have won every single Eastern Conference Player of the Month this
For sure.
season because he's been that great. And honestly, you look down the entirety of the Eastern Conference, there's only like a handful of guys that are actually in that echelon per se. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, now newly acquired James Harden could, I guess, be in that mix for Conference Player of the Month. Um, Outside of him, you have Donovan Mitchell, and outside of Donovan Mitchell, you have now Jason Tatum finally has come back. Jaylen Brown. Honestly, it would really be Cade or Jaylen Brown as far as Eastern Conference Player of the Month awards, in my mind, at least. You can make a case for Donovan Mitchell, but the point remains it is wide open, and therefore Cade should have just racked up every single Eastern Conference Player of the Week, Eastern Conference Player of the Month, just everything. He should have just been given to. He has worked his tail off this year. In February, he had honestly a stellar month as far as 3-point shooting. Like whenever you're shooting above 30% from 3, you're usually in that ballpark of, yeah, you're a 3-point shooter. But then Cade is shooting 43%, which is actually pretty darn good. Most
So
people would
good,
sit
so
there and
good.
go 43%. Oh, that doesn't sound good at all. If you don't know ball, you're going to say that. But when you do know what you're talking about, 43% is really good because if we want to you compare that to another shooter on our team in Duncan Robinson is hovering around 40% from three. If you look at Kevin Herter, who we brought in at the trade deadline, this season he was shooting around 37% from three, which is a career low for him. But 37% is still really good compared to a lot of guys in the league. So Cade is in a new ballpark of not only is he scoring like he normally does, not only is he passing like he normally does, rebounding, etc. He is shooting the ball far better and at a higher clip than what he had been the previous couple months, but then even the last couple of years. And then his shooting overall has increased. 40%
Mhm.
from the field in general is phenomenal. You could make a case, okay, that could be a little bit higher, especially with the layups and the dunks and whatever. But he's also taking jump shots. He's not just driving to the rim. He's not just catching it outside and jacking up a three. He's
Mhm.
doing like a little bit of everything. So when you look at his stats, yeah, there's no doubt in my mind that he shouldn't have been or should have been the Eastern Conference Player of the Month because he's been that good consistently all season long. Now, the last three games or so, it's here and there. Obviously, he missed a game, but but usually there's a losing streak within a really good season for any really good team. And the fact that our longest losing streak is what, 3 games? I'm going to take a 3 game losing streak over a 18 game losing streak like we all know happened previously. So I am perfectly fine with these stats. I think they're amazing. I mean, yes, you can make a case for any of these stats increasing, but I'm gonna just say right then and there, like that is pretty darn good, especially the 43% from three.
All right, so we gave Cade his flowers on winning player of the month in the Eastern Conference. Now let's talk about this losing streak with the Pistons. Now, obviously, as Pistons fans, we've gotten very accustomed to the Pistons winning game after game, and not that a three-game losing streak is very per se alarming, but we have seen teams in previous years fall apart following the All-Star break. Not saying that's what's happening with the Pistons here, but the way these losses have happened are a bit like, okay, we need to take a step back, look at the stats and the reasons behind why they are losing these games. And when you look at a box score or stats following a game, it tells a story of what happened within those lines on the court. And so we're going to break down each loss, main reasons why the games got away from them, and then we're going to wrap up after talking about the three losses of how they can progress and kind of fix these issues. Because as Pistons fans, we're only doing ourselves a better job by explaining why these things are happening, if we should be alarmed, if this is something we should be worried about. Is it coaching? Is it effort? Is it injuries? Is it what is it? And we're going to try to tell the story of why these things are happening. So to break off and start talking about the losing streak, their first loss happened against the San Antonio Spurs. That final score was 121 to the Pistons 106. And the reason why this Spurs game in particular is exciting to look at is because these matchups against the Spurs have really felt like a playoff atmosphere, aggressive, fans really into these games, a lot of energy brought onto the court for these games. And this, I mean, it might be a hot take, but it kind of feels to me that this might be an NBA Finals this coming season. So if that does happen, we can look back on this episode and look at what happened and what went wrong. The biggest thing of why the Spurs had such a large lead and controlled the game almost from the get-go was because of Victor Wembanyama. I mean, he's an alien, he's a freak, right? 38 points, 16 rebounds, 5 blocks. And what we saw happen against the Spurs is they really controlled the paint and the rim protection. And when the Pistons players in particular don't feel like they can finish at the rim, that's when you start hoisting desperate threes, while you start seeing fadeaway jumpers, these shots that aren't the highest quality of what you're trying to reach when winning a game. A couple other main reasons why Detroit lost. Wembanyama, obviously, like I said, dominated on the inside. Spurs jumped out to an early lead and controlled the game wire to wire. The Pistons never really quite felt like they had control in this game. And then because of that elite shot blocking, the Pistons couldn't finish at the rim. And one thing too, it's not just shot blocking that factors into a game when finishing at the rim. Sometimes when teams go through these cold streaks to solve those things, you finish at the rim, you become a rim rusher, you feed the big men, see if they can get some momentum going in the paint. And when that is taken away, it's really hard for offenses to find that rhythm and solve cold streaks and go on little runs that eventually lead to an overall win. Ryan, when facing the Spurs, a lot of things and factors go into this. They have a lot of good guards and obviously Wembanyama in the paint. What are some things that stood out to you when the Pistons played against the Spurs twice in this game in particular?
So this one in particular, the one thing that stands out to me, well, there's two things, but the one of the two is Jalen Duren. Duren leaves early, only plays 12
Yep.
minutes. He's 3 of 7, 7 points, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. Like great stats in the first 12 minutes, goes out with injury. He disappears. Asar Thompson only plays 2 minutes, gone with injury. And then we finally get um, a little taste of Isaiah Stewart in the mix. That's great, 18 points. But my staple in all of this, in combining all of those, is you're going up against an alien in Victor Wembanyama. He dropped 38 points on you. And yes, the Spurs dominated the whole game, even from the beginning. However, Jalen Duren not being there in that presence, because in that first matchup against the Spurs, Victor could not do anything against Jalen Duren in that first half. It
Right. He
was
only had
Jalen
16
Duren.
points that game.
Yeah, only 16 points the whole game.
Hmm.
Jalen Duren was being extremely physical with him. And he was like letting him know, like, hey, you're not just going to get an easy shot up on me at all. And finishing with 16 points. Like, I'm taking 16 points from Victor Wembanyama any day of the week. Um, so the presence of not having Duren there is huge. But then losing a Sar after 2 minutes for the whole game is even worse because not only do you have your defensive anchor gone and Jalen Duren, but then you lose Asar Thompson, who perimeter wise is your defensive guy. And so you lose two of your better defenders on the team. And then your bigs to compete with Victor Wembanyama are B-Ball Paul and Isaiah Stewart. And I love them. No disrespect to them. But what are they going to do to stop Victor Wembanyama? And I mentioned this in the last matchup that if Isaiah Stewart would have played in that game, he would have been a difference maker. And I stand by that still. If Jalen Duren plays this full game and Isaiah Stewart has the game that he had, we would have won. Honestly, even with Asar going down with the injury, we probably would have won this game. But the fact that you just stack injury on injury on injury, and then you're okay, Jalen Duren has been on a tear recently. He has been around 20 points, 14 boards consistently for the whole
Hmm.
month of February rather. And so when you lose your second best scorer on the team, and then the next highest scorer on the team outside of Cade with his 26 is Isaiah Stewart. Isaiah Stewart was picking up the pieces that Jalen Duren left off because Jalen Duren couldn't play. So I think the real core issue here in this game, in this matchup in particular, is when you lose Asar Thompson and Jalen Duren, two of your best players on the team, of course it's going to be so much harder to win. And it's not like everybody played bad. I mean, Karis LeVert played 20 minutes and had nothing to account for. So yeah, that's not great. But like everybody still played their role and did their part. Tobias only had 11, which isn't great either, but like he's still contributing. So everybody was still contributing. You just lost two of your better players. And it's kind of hard to put a guy who's 6'9" and a guy who's 6'8" up against a 7'4" center. Like that's pretty hard to do. So I see this loss as more of like a yes, we did struggle, obviously, the whole game, but it doesn't help that two of your better finishers around the rim, two of your better defenders weren't there to help pick up some of the pieces that were getting left behind.
All right, so we talked about Spurs versus Pistons and what transpired in that loss. Let's talk about the Brooklyn Nets loss. Obviously, this was a close game. It was one that just kind of got away from us. Real big note to make before we get into it is we are missing Cade Cunningham and Asar Thompson. That final score was 107 to Pistons 105. Key opponent performances: Michael Porter Jr., 30 points and 13 rebounds. Zaire Williams, 23 points. Pistons blew a 23-point lead in the second half. Nets closed the game with a 34 to 13 fourth quarter run. Now, obviously, there's going to be games where teams just have late game collapses, missing star players. And we can get into the Nets a little bit. Obviously, they're not like a major note in the Eastern Conference right now. But I do want to talk briefly. I've been watching some national media things, and a lot of teams, or not teams, a lot of announcers and commentators are starting to say that the Pistons are nothing without Cade Cunningham. And I don't like this narrative, Ryan, and I want to get your thoughts. I don't know if you've been seeing a lot of this commentary. It's starting to come from Stephen A. Smith and Lou Williams and Mike Chandler Parsons and people like that are saying the Pistons are all good and all, but if they lose Cade, they're going to lose to teams like the Brooklyn Nets and the bottom feeders of the East. What are your thoughts?
I 100% disagree with that because of you look at what I just talked about with the Spurs matchup. You lose Jalen Duren, your second best player on the team, and look what happens. Victor Wembanyama goes off for 38 points. You go back to the previous matchup, Jalen Duren holds him to 16 points. You can't tell me that Cade Cunningham is the only reason why this team is good. Like, yes, Jalen Duren against Brooklyn, 17 points, 14 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 3 blocks. Like,
Yeah, I mean, come on.
he that was a great game. Yet, yes, he was
Yeah.
7 of 19 from the field. Not a great shooting night for him, but like he still had a decent double double. And then not only did he have a double double, but he also stacked the box score with multiple blocks, multiple steals, multiple assists. So it's like he was
Hmm.
doing everything. And Tobias had a good game. Duncan Robinson had a decent game. Um, like everyone played decently well. It's just when it came down to crunch time, it really hurt that you have Michael Porter Jr., who is that talented, and not really anyone to go up against him. Like not having a Sar Thompson to match up against
Yeah.
Michael Porter Jr. Like if you had that, Michael Porter Jr. is not scoring the way he did. Like Asar Thompson is by far one of the best defenders in the league, and it's not even just honestly, he probably is the best. He's that good. So not only did we have Cade gone, we didn't have a Sar, but we also had a shortened bench. Like you had one, two, like a handful of guys play that normally do get minutes, but it's not like you have a lot to work with. Usually JB is very like, okay, there's your time slot, there's your time slot. Okay, you're next. He kind of has his free flowing chart system going. But
For
then not
sure.
having your best player in Cade Cunningham, not having your best defender in Asar Thompson, it really shortens up the bench because then you're like, okay, I kind of have to force Marcus Sasser to go out, even though he's only played probably like 10 games. I can count on my fingers how many games he's played in all season long. Or Kevin Herter since the trade pickup, he's probably played in what, 3 games? And it's been minutes. It's not been like 20 minutes, 15 minutes. It's been like 2 minutes. So, like,
Hmm.
there's a couple guys within the rotation that typically don't get out there that we're having to go out there. And so I think having the short bench, not having two of your best players, yes, something like this could happen. But I do think that out of the national media in this topic per se, they are partially correct. Partially correct in the sense that we do not have. I love Dennis Jenkins, and he has had a phenomenal season, but he is a rotation piece. He's not the next point guard that comes in when Cade can't play. Like we got to find or identify somebody, or he has to step up and play a bigger and better role. And because 11 points from him being essentially the starting point guard is not going to cut it. Um, so I think the media is right in the sense that we don't have a really like solidified guard following Cade on the roster. But Jalen Duren, you take him out of the mix, the Spurs womp us. Same with Asar Thompson. So you take two of those guys out. Asar Thompson's not a factor in this. Cade isn't a factor in this. So it's not just Cade because you stick Asar on Michael Porter Jr. that he doesn't have that game. We win. Um, so I really disagree with the national coverage saying that if you take away Cade, then we're nothing because I think there's a lot of dogs on this team that are really good. And you can give countless examples, and I just gave one specifically with the Spurs because I think that one is like a pretty obvious one, if anything. But I think the media is wrong in that. But I do think there's a partial they're starting to hint at something that is partially true in the sense that our guard depth, even though we have a good set of rotation guys, we don't have like a clear and definite like guard following Cade. Like with Jaden Ivey, you could make the case like even though he wasn't having a great season, you could make the case, okay, we have a clear and definite guard outside of Cade. But now it's like, okay, you have Sasser, you have Jenkins, you have Karis LeVert, you have Kevin Herter, you have Duncan Robinson. And it's like, who's the clear cut guard? And technically, Duncan doesn't even play the two. He's mainly a three. So you take him out of the mix, and then it's Karis LeVert, Kevin Herter, Dennis Jenkins, and Marcus Sasser. And I'm sorry, but I don't see a clear and definite guard out of that group outside of Dennis Jenkins, probably. So I think there's a little hint of truth in this, but I think it's 100% inaccurate because you can go off of the Spurs back-to-back matchups as a clear and evident example.
Well, and last year during the playoffs, we had Dennis Schroeder coming off the bench, and he would immediately come in and run the offense to what Cade's ability was also to run the offense. And there wasn't such cold streaks as far as passing the ball, finding open players. And Dennis Jenkins, I think he has it in him to be able to do that. He's just still on the younger side. But the way the Pistons are playing right now and how the Eastern Conference is somewhat wide open as far as who's going to represent the East in finals, this is the Pistons' time to really execute. And they need Dennis Jenkins to step up now. It's not a, oh, maybe he'll prove it in a couple of years. No, we need him to prove it now. And if he can't, then we'll see what will happen there. Um, let's talk about the loss to the Miami Heat. We, talked about the last two games, and this is a game with versus the Heat where the Pistons just were not in it at all. Like from the get-go, from the tip, it was like, okay, this is counted as a loss in the columns. The Pistons lost to the Heat 121 to 110. Their big performers were Tyler Hero with 25 points, Bam Adebayo with 24. Cade did return for this game, 26 points, 10 assists. Another big points outing from Jalen Duren, 24 points. Miami dominated from the beginning with a 34 to 16 first quarter. Scoring 34 points in one quarter is obviously going to set you up for a win. The Pistons were crushed in transition offense. The Miami Heat had 22 transition points to the Pistons 6. The Heat also controlled the boards for the most part with 54 to 48 with the rebounding edge. So biggest thing was transition offense, defense collapsed, and defense in general. They just really couldn't stop Tyler Hero or Bam Adebayo. What we're going to see, I think the biggest issue of why the Pistons are losing these games is really just because you cannot allow NBA teams to score 120 points. That's just not going to cut it. It's really hard to beat those margins and outbeat 120 points per game. That's just showing you that the defense simply is just not cutting it. Teams are shooting too efficiently on them and getting out and scoring fast on them, and that just doesn't cut it when you're trying to beat a team like the Heat that you just can't look past.
Yeah, they look tired to me. Um, the game span of Orlando, Cleveland, San Antonio, Brooklyn, and then Miami. That's actually a tough span to go through. Um, and I think the overtime did not help them. I think Orlando was actually decently difficult for them. Then losing guys due to injury against the Spurs, and then the Nets, and now you're back with the Heat, and it's trying to get back into the rhythm that you were once in. And there's just a lot of factors, but the Heat, the one thing that they will always be really good at under Spo is rebounding and hustle points. Like no matter what, they will always crash the boards. They are always going to dive for loose balls. They are always going to make defensive stops and shoot the darn ball at a very high clip. Um, it just no matter what, the Heat will always do that. They will find guys who most people go like, who even is that? And that guy will be a stud and go off. Like it just happens. But given that, where are we defensively? Because offensively, we were not in terrible shape. Stu gave us 14. Cade gave us 26. Dern gave us 24. B-Ball Paul gave us 10. But
Hmm.
outside of that, nobody really showed up offensively outside of those guys. But then, and obviously, scoring plays a key part in this. But defensively, where were we? Like the fact that we're letting teams score above 120 when previous to that, they were barely sniffing 100. So, what
Hmm.
changed recently outside of the injuries is I think we're just exhausted. They were go, 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 go all the way through until All-Star weekend. And usually, when you're getting closer to All-Star weekend, that's when typically a lot of teams just take the foot off the gas and just go into cruise control because they're like, we don't want to worry about these games and keep our guys healthy, and then we'll get back at it outside of All Star Weekend. But no, JB Bickerstaff and co are wanting to go like, no, we got to go 100% every single chance we get. But I think it's finally starting to catch up to us a little bit because the 3 game slid is a key and evident factor in that. You throw in the injury bug that we're kind of sort of dealing with. Like this doesn't just happen to a good team all the time. It happens for a reason. And yes, this game defensively, we just did not show up. But I think you throw into the fact that we're tired, where we have a little bit of an injury bug, and we're trying to get back into the flow of things. It's really hard to compete with any team in the NBA, especially the Miami Heat, who are always going to be a factor, even if they're sitting at 36 and 29, which is terrible for them. They're still one of the better teams in the East, even record good or bad, they're still one of the better teams. So I think when you look at this game, yes, we got blown out, and it was a tough scene to watch because I know we were sitting there watching the Michigan State game, and we flipped it over, and it's the first quarter, and it's 36-16, and we're like, what on earth is going on right now? Like
Yeah,
this should not be a thing. So we quickly panned off that and went back to the Michigan game. Go blue. Sorry, little brother, you're
absolutely.
gonna have to try it again next year. But no, I think they're tired. I really think that's what it is. They had a tough 4 or 5 game slate going into this game, and it's tough to be consistent every single night. And it's almost as if they were playing back to back to back with a couple wiggle days in between, but coming off of injuries too. Like it's just tough to win in the NBA and to do it consistently all season long. Like 18 losses is incredible. Like I am taking 18 losses any day. Now,
Oh
I
yeah.
would have preferred to have won the last 3 than lose the last 3 because then we'd be 48 and 15 rather than 45 and 18. But I'm still taking 18 losses. That's fine. I just want to get to the playoffs, be the number 1 seed in the East, and go to town on whoever we match up against. That's where my head is at right now. I want the playoffs to start. I don't want to have to deal with an injury bug. I don't want to talk about the Pistons on a 3 game losing streak anymore. Like we we want to be the best. We got to be the best. And I think the injury bug, along with just being wiped out from just foot on the gas all season long, is really the biggest factor in us losing this because like that second half wasn't terrible for us at all. We just got into the hole early on and just couldn't get back out of it.
Well, and I was worried about it when the All-Star break did approach of like, okay, at the time Jalen Duren was going to be the dunk contest. That didn't end up happening. But then Cade and Duren have their All-Star appearance. JB, is taking time to coach the the Team USA per se. Uh, and I was a little worried of like, okay, these guys seem to get a little overworked. They've been playing really hard. It would have been, as much as you want to see them play in that All-Star game, it's like, okay, it would be a nice to have a long weekend break, let them get their bodies right. But instead, they were trying to entertain the masses, which they did. But it was just like, okay, these guys are young. How are they going to handle this All-Star break? And not that they're handling it poorly. I think that the Pistons are going to turn it around. At the time of the recording, they get a rematch against the Brooklyn Nets. That I hope that they just absolutely hammer them so we can put this all in the rear view. But it's good to look at the reasons and the stats behind where they are falling short, because then when the playoffs come around and we're playing really important basketball, it's a little bit easier to diagnose what is happening with the Pistons if they are skidding a bit. Just to kind of talk about, in summary, the biggest issues. Um, Wembanyama dominance against the Spurs, that was the biggest standout. Against the Nets, they blew a 23-point lead. That's going to happen at times. It shouldn't, but it did. Versus the Heat, terrible defense and transition defense. And then overall, guys coming in and out of games, injuries, and then just an overall defensive drop. Now, when talking about Cade and his effect on the Pistons, I think that it's something that the Pistons might want to address because he is ball dominant right now, and it's a little bit easier for people to come into Detroit and watch their film and know how to address the Pistons. And right now, defenses are just plain out blitzing him for Pete's sake. So I think it'd be interesting to have solutions like more off-ball screens, getting Duncan Robinson open around the three-point line. When Karis LeVert comes back, get him open and make Cade have easier passes. When Asar Thompson comes back, I think it'd be interesting to let him initiate some more offense, because then defenses have to adjust to Asar a little bit more. Now, if he has a game where he's 3 and 17, then obviously that's not the solution. But as far as game planning against the Pistons, it's very easy to do that right now because teams know that Cade is going to initiate the offense, find his own shot, whether it's the 3 point. It really is a three-level score, so they're just trying to address those three levels, double team when they can. And also, what also could help with it is more pick and roll with Jalen Duren. We haven't seen the Pistons really utilize that quite yet. And Jalen Duren has proven that his footwork does cut it, that it's very good, and that he can finish around the rim. Let's see the normal pick and roll with Jalen Duren. We haven't seen a point guard center pick and roll very frequently since Andre Drummond and whoever, Reggie Jackson at the helm. So I think that'd be interesting to see how that goes for the Pistons, because Jalen Duren really does have a unorthodox offense. That will do it for episode number 35 of season 3. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.